middle of Simon Gimel and Hogas Beis HaKisei, conduct in the bathroom. We've seen that the mitzvah of tznius, it applies even in B'chadri Chadorim, even when no one can see. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is everywhere, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is everything. One has to act in every place, and the bathroom appropriate to that place. That's what we've seen till now. Just before we continue, I just want to see one line of the Bir Halacha. You look at the Bir Halacha here on the page we're on now. Mine is called page Zion. The top line of the Bir Halacha. Just the top line. If you have exactly the same layout. It starts with the words Ubismak. Right? Got it? Everyone's got it? Ubismak, the smak stands for Sefer Mitzvahs Kotam. He was one of the Rishonim. Lived in France in a place called Kutsi. He writes, "Bismak moine tznius lemitzvah deraisa." He writes, he lists out all the mitzvahs with a lot of halachas connected to the mitzvahs, and he writes that this mitzvah of tznius in the Beis HaKisei is a mitzvah deraisa, which is very interesting. Most other moina mitzvahs don't count it. He counts it as a mitzvah deraisa. He learns it from the parasha of when it's talked about going to battle. Talks about going to battle. There's a halachas about how a soldier has to, if he needs to excuse himself, he has to go outside the camp, and then outside he has to take with, when he goes to fight, he has to take with him a small spade or something to dig with. He has to go outside the camp, dig there, make sure he covers it up afterwards. So those halachas tell the soldier exactly how he has to do it in the most synistic way possible. The Smak understands from there that it's telling us that the Kol Shekin, a soldier who's in a difficult position, he's out in battle in the middle of, outside the city, it's more difficult for him. Even he has to make sure he does it in a modest, synistic way. So Kol Shekin, everyone else. So he understands that these halachas we're learning now of being sunnah and a basic history, he understands it's actually a mitzvah in a Torah obligation. Let's continue now with where we're up to. We're up to Sif Zayin. Right, so that's two on the same page we're on now, and there's 2 lines from the bottom of the Shulchan Aruch. Sif Zayin. Hamatil mayim min hatzoifim v'lifnim pirush mokom sheyecholim liros misham har habayis. Someone who's needs to use himself a ketanim, right, number 1, in a place where he can see har habayis. Minasofim is the place from where you can see har habayis, further away you can't see it. Lo yeishev uponov klape hakodesh, elo letofin eledorim, or yisalik hakodesh listodim. He shouldn't do it with his facing the Beis Hamikdash, the kodesh, the mokum hamikdash. Should either do in the other direction or to the side.
Doesn't refer to Beis Hamikdash. Doesn't refer to you standing in the grounds of a Beis Hamikdash.
Sorry? So referring to Beis, it is referring to facing towards the Beis Hamikdash. Facing towards the Beis Hamikdash. What about Beis HaKnesses? That's an excellent question. Let's have a look at the Mishnah. Let's see what he tells us about Beis HaKnesses. Okay. So let's have a look now at the Mishnah. The first one, Sif Kotten Gimel, is just let's look at Sif Kotten Dalet, right? The bottom line of the page. Ela Lutzofin V'chula. Bottom line. Also, if he's got his back to the Mokum HaMikdash, that's also okay. The Gra holds that even one's further away than this, one should never do it in the direction of the Beis HaMikdash. And now your question. Also, la'amod lefanis lehedya neged Beis HaKnesses u'Beis HaMedrash. D'lo yehim miklal mi shenem aleim va'achoreihem el heichal Hashem. One shouldn't excuse oneself next to in the direction of the Beis HaKnesset, the Beis HaMedrash. So he's not included in what it says in the pasuk. Achoreim el Heichal Hashem. It refers to the pasuk in Yechezkel, which is referring to people who want to dafka to denigrate and shows that they look down on the Beis HaMikdash, and that they would dafka do it facing the Beis HaMikdash. We dafka should do it in the opposite direction. One also shouldn't make Beis HaKisei next to the Beis HaKnesset Beis HaMedrash. Says you have to put a wall between the wall of the toilet and the wall of the Beis HaKnesset. There should be an extra wall to be mafsik between them. So as you said, this halacha also applies to shul as well.
But it doesn't necessarily apply these days, because basically say these days isn't the same type of bathroom.
Right.
Right, so it doesn't really apply these days.
Right, it could be that it's different.
Well, there are two walls.
Mm?
There's the wall of the house and the wall of the bathroom.
Right.
Are exempt.
Right. Okay, let's see now. Let's carry on with the Shulchan Aruch. Sif Ches. Kishenifne basode, if he does has to do it outside in the open field. Imu achoyre hageder, fana miyad. Ubebiko yisrachik ad mokum shelo yuchal chaveiro lirois peruim. So if you can do it next to a wall, that's preferable. If he's in an open place, bebiko, where there's no walls, it's completely open on all sides, then he has to make sure he has to go to somewhere where no one can see him. To a private place where no one can see him. Sif Tes. These halachas are slightly less relevant nowadays because we have toilets available in most places. But it can happen if one's on a hike somewhere and one has to know these halachas. Sif Tes. Lo yeshev b'mehera u'b'choizek v'lo ye'anos lidchoik atzma yosem medai shelo yinatek shenach kakashta. One shouldn't do it too quickly. These are health ideas. One shouldn't do it too quickly. One shouldn't push too hard. It's apparently unhealthy. Modern medicine agrees with this. Pushing too hard is unhealthy. Yeah. Okay. So if Yud, lo yikanech b'yad yamin. One shouldn't wipe with one's right hand. Why not? This is halacha Rabbi Eliezer mentioned to us a few days ago. I think last week he mentioned this halacha. Sif Kotin Yud Zayin Mishabur Sif Kotin Yud Zayin. Sif Kotin Yud Zayin B'yad Yamin Midnei Shekosher Bo Tefillin Al Zroya HaSmoli. Because he uses his right hand to tie the tefillin, therefore he shouldn't wipe his hands with it. Void Hamim Acherim, and there are also other reasons given in Big Gemara. V'tov Lizoher Melekanech V'etzbah Ha'etzomtoi Shekorech Olov HaRotzor. Should also be try, even when he's using his left hand, he should try not to use the middle finger, which is the one that he wraps the tefillin strap around it. V'chosar Achonim De'iter Yad Shekol Inyon of Oisa B'Smoil Mekanech B'Smoil Zdeishu Yamin Kolodo. A left-handed person works the other way around. Because of B'Smoil L'Shamayis of Oisa B'Min L'Hepech and V'Aloch. It's more complicated. As a left-handed person is the other way around, he shouldn't do it with his right hand or with the middle finger of his left hand. The poskim do mention that nowadays that we use paper and the hands come out pretty clean, it's not as important. If it's difficult for a person to clean in this way, then one can do it. However, it's important to clean properly. If one can keep this halacha, it's good. If not, then as we use paper nowadays, it's one should do it in a way that will come out clean. See if Yud Aleph. Okay, let's skip on to Yud Aleph because it's really not relevant nowadays. We use paper, we don't use cheres and Sif Yud Beis. It's just a few lines beneath it. Sif Yud Beis. Ifana b'tznius b'alayla k'moi b'yoyim. Right. Here they're talking about again. It's not so relevant nowadays. They did it outside in the fields. The difference between night and day is that at night there was no light there. During the day there was light. Nowadays we have light whenever we do it. We turn on the light. But the Yesod, as you said, we've talked about before, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is everywhere, And you can see everything wherever we are, even in basic kisei, and even if it's dark, there's no difference. There's no difference. These halachas of shneis apply whether it's light or dark. One should act in equal levels of shneis. Let's carry on to if you'd gimel. Lo yashtin mu'umad v'bnei nitzoytzois hanitozen al raglov. Im lo she'yamed b'mochum gavoya she'yashtin l'seich ofar tichoyach. This again, one shouldn't really want to, again, here it's talking about again number one, ketanim. One shouldn't do it standing up because it will splash on one's feet. Unless one stands in a high place or one does it on soft soil. Again, this is not relevant when we do it inside in a regular toilet. Obviously, this is not relevant. It's relevant if one's outside on a tiul. One should make sure to do it in a place where it's not going to splash back against oneself, either onto soft soil or on a higher place where it's going down, not in a place where one will get dirty from it. Let's carry on. So if you're dalid, Yizoher shelo ye'echos ba'amo v'yashtin im lo me'atorah lo mata. Now we're moving on to a completely different halacha. Till now we've been talking about tznius in the Beis HaKisei, all different, how to conduct oneself in the Beis HaKisei. Now we're moving on to a completely different halacha, which is connected to the Beis HaKisei, which is the halacha of being motzi shech v'aseh levatola, which is quite a grave avera. The seed, the zera of a man is made for procreation. One has to be careful not to, that it shouldn't come out for no reason, and therefore one shouldn't one shouldn't hold the limb of the body when he goes to the toilet. You should only hold it from the part away from the guf. The very end of it. The very end of it is okay, but the higher part of it, if one touches it and warms it up, then it can be motzi shech v'aseh levatol. Motzi shech v'aseh levatol. Elam kein nosi. If he's married, then it's less problematic. It's okay. If one can, it's a middle of chasidim, even if one is married, to be careful not to warm up that part of the body. Sif tesvov neshochanach. Afilu misha einoi nosui mutar l'seiah bebeitzim. If even one who isn't married is not allowed to touch that part of the body, if he needs to lift it up so that he doesn't dirty himself, he can lift it up by holding on to the sack, the testicles, and use that to lift up his limb. Sif tezayin. Even when we said a married person can do it, it's only if it's necessary to excuse himself, but not to, you should never rub it. Sif Yud Zayin, this is now another halacha. Hamash and the cover of over mishum bal tashaktu. There's another issue involved in going to the toilet, as well as sneers, and as well as this idea of not being motzi shech v'aseh levatola. There's another issue called bal tashaktu. Not doing things that are disgusting, as to hold in oneself. One needs to be excused, and one holds it in. It's an issa bal tashatzu. So one has to be careful not to. If one needs to go, one has to go. One shouldn't hold it in. Let's go. Let's have a look at the. Let's have a look at the Mishnah verse of Kohen Lamed Aleph.
That's referring to an exorbitant amount of time. We're not saying like the instant that he feels he has to go.
That's correct.
What he's doing, he has to run to the bathroom.
That's correct. We're talking about when it's. So if Kohen Lamed Aleph bal tashaktu, v'mashe atzmei laktanim oivim mishum bal tashaktu mishum shtei okar. This is referring also to ktanim, not just to gedolim, also ktanim number 2 and number 1. It's also an over on bal tashaktu. And it also says mishum shelo yeh okar. It also says the word also it can affect one's fertility if one holds it in for ketanim. For number 1, if one holds it in for too long, this can also, I think, press on the fertility organs. Sorry, I jumped a line. If one needs to let out wind and one holds it in, this is not a problem about the Shabbat. One's allowed to hold in wind, even if it's difficult one to hold it in. One is allowed to, this is not a problem about the Shabbat. About the Shabbat is only holding in, one needs to be excused, but holding in one is not a problem. Gama is about the Shabbat, nitcha me play kovad abuyas. Kugen hamash in a kovav, achim se mokum tsonu avachia gavna. Also, there's an issue of kovad abuyas. Kovad abuyas is not being denigrated in front of other people. This overrides the prohibition about the Shabbat. So if one has to hold oneself in because one's in, let's say, on a teal and one's around people and one has to hold himself in until one can go to a place which is sonua, then it's not a problem about the Shabbat. And the poskim also mention a very common case of this issue of kovad abuyas is you have a shlech tzibur, a chazan, who's davening, and then suddenly has a great urge to go. If he has to stop in the middle and go, it's a problem of kovad abuyas. Everyone sees him. It's not nice at all. So this overrides the prohibition of Baal Tashatsu, and he's allowed to hold it in until he finishes. Okay, yeah. Okay, one should be careful to clean oneself very well, because if one doesn't clean himself well, we'll see when we learn tefillah, even the smallest amount of dirt that's left, if one doesn't clean himself properly, means one can't daven. In order to daven, one has to be completely clean. Therefore, one has to make sure to clean oneself well. It's a good idea to wash it with water afterwards. As we said, we have paper nowadays, it's easy to clean well, but sometimes it's necessary one should clean with water, because otherwise one can't daven if one's not completely clean. Okay. What we're going to do now is Simon Dalad, right? Is now Dinah Nitilas Sedayim. What we're up to now is a new Indian washing one's hands in Tilas Sedayim. Okay, it's quite a long Simon, but what I wanted to do is next week is already Kislev. So next week I want to start already Hilchos Chanukah. We have a month to learn Hilchos Chanukah. So we're not going to start Simon Dalad now. So it leaves us with 15 minutes now and tomorrow. So what we're going to do is, what we'll do now, I think, is we'll just review quickly. We'll go back to the beginning and we'll just quickly go through what we've seen till now. And tomorrow, I want to bring, I'm going to try and bring, see a few tshuvas of the poskim written after the Mishnah Berurah on some of the inyonim we've seen till now. Some from the Gusmoshe of Moshe Feinstein and other halachas, just to see some additional details on halachas we've seen till now. Okay, that's what we're going to try and do. So let's have a look now. Let's go back to the beginning. We'll just remind ourselves, just do a quick cut of what we've seen till now, and the first three simon. Okay. Okay. So we saw the beginning, Sif Aleph. The Shulchan Aruch says, "Yiskabe kari la'amod baboyker avodas boire sheyehu mo'erer hashachar." And we saw the idea of getting up enthusiastically. He now has the opportunity to serve Hashem. He should get up quickly, early, with enthusiasm to serve Hashem. Another day of Avodas Hashem. Then we saw in the Ramah, he mentioned the idea of Shavisi Hashem Lenegdi Somid. He said it's an important principle. One should realize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is before us always, and one should act accordingly. One should realize that whenever one speaks, even thinking, HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows everything we think. Whatever one does, speaks or thinks should be in accordance with this. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu is watching and listening, and it should be appropriate for this. And that was the idea of the Ramah. And then if we turn the page, the Ramah at the top of the next page, we saw the idea, the Ramah says, one shouldn't be embarrassed of people who make fun of him serving Hashem. One should serve Hashem even if people around him are making fun of him doing mitzvahs. If one is in a group where they make fun of mitzvahs, one should try and keep away from these people. But if one is around them, then one should not be embarrassed to do mitzvahs, and one should act in the correct way even if people are making fun of him.
The question is, does someone who's in that situation, does he try to do it a little bit more covertly so that they don't have a reason to make fun of him, or does he go ahead and do it how he generally would?
Yes, correct. It says that clearly somewhere. Let me see if it says it here. Okay, it doesn't. The Mishnah doesn't mention it. I have seen it somewhere. That one, if one could do it in a place that they won't see it, obviously it's preferable. Okay, let's continue. Okay, and then the final line of the Gemara. Gam b'atznei aleches u'b'shochav ha'mishkova yeda lifnei miyushoichet. That's again. One should read that even when he's lying in his bed. Hakadosh Baruch Hu Hashem is watching him. That's again the same idea of the Shulchan Aruch to get up quickly to serve Hashem. Okay. Then we saw we saw the Biur Halacha here. The first Biur Halacha on the first page. We saw that the idea of the Yerushalmi, which we don't do these Yerushalmi, but we mentioned that we should have this in mind in davening, is to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu every stage of the day for bringing us through to this part of the day. We saw that in the first Biur Halacha here, on the first page. Every stage of the day, when we wake up in the morning, we shouldn't take life for granted. We should thank Hashem for bringing us through the night, giving us back our neshama in the morning. We say Moidani lefonecha to thank Hashem for giving us back in our neshama. And every stage of the day, when we get to mincha, we should thank Hashem. We saw the sun in the eastern part of the sky. Thank you we can see it now in the west. And also at night, we should daven that we should get through the next night. We shouldn't take life for granted. We should thank Hashem every stage of the day. And if we appreciate our life more, we've mentioned that we'll definitely use it to the full.
So the image here is Afela is nighttime, and the Oira is in the morning when he brings us back to the next morning, to the next daylight.
Right, Afela is nighttime and Oira is in the morning. That's right. Then we saw the second Biur Halacha. The second Biur Halacha mentioned the 6 constant mitzvahs, the sheish mitzvahs tmidis, that we can do any time when a man's standing waiting for us, any time when one's not doing anything. Instead of wasting one's time, one can contemplate these 6 mitzvahs. One's doing mitzvahs in our Torah. We mentioned the Mishnah mentioned Ein Tzcha. There's no.
What are the 6 again?
So I'll tell you in a minute. So the Mishnah said that we don't know the schar of mitzvahs. So just a few thoughts, one can get tremendous reward for considering these mitzvahs. What are the 6 mitzvahs? Number 1, to believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that there is a God. Not to believe in any other God, which includes not to believe in any power, any koyach, any power in the world, whether good or evil. It all comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Believing in Shaitim, however, doesn't fall into that category.
Because that's a koch that comes from Hashem.
Right.
One can believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave kochas to other, like there's kochas to people. People can do things, but that koch comes. Any koch even that a person has comes from Hashem. One can believe in Shaitim Malochim, but their koch comes from Hashem. The third one is Yichud Hashem, to believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is indivisible. There's no different parts to Him. Right? There's no such thing as a Trinity. Right? This is against the Christian belief. This number 4 is to love Hashem, Avas Hashem. And we mentioned that the Mishnah mentions that one can achieve Avas Hashem through learning Torah that can lead to Avas Hashem. We mentioned that the Rambam says that one can reach Avas Hashem by looking at the tremendous creation. Just think about the human body. It's incredible. You just think any part of the human body can just think about tremendous Avas Hashem when you realize the intricacy of how everything works. Right? Unfortunately, it's only when something goes wrong that people realize how the body's working so incredibly. When something goes wrong, people realize all of a sudden what it was doing till now. But we shouldn't wait for that. We should even now contemplate how everything works so well. That leads to tremendous avas Hashem. The fifth one was yiras Hashem, fearing Hashem. And the sixth one was lo sasiru acharei levavchem v'acharei einechem, not to entertain heretical thoughts or immodest thoughts. And the Mishnah Berurah said included in this is chasing after any pleasure in Olam Hazeh for the sake of the pleasure. And that's included in this. One should only use pleasures from Olam Hazeh for the sake of being able to serve Hashem. Right? If you need to enjoy a pleasure, to relax himself so you can have koyach, strength to do more mitzvahs, then that's acceptable. But just to take pleasure just for the sake of taking pleasure in Olam Hazeh, that's included in this. Okay, then let's continue with the summary. If base. Okay, so if base, that's not such a relevant halacha. We said that if one gets up in the middle of the night to daven, the best times to daven are after a third of the night and after 2/3 of the night and at the end of the night. Then we saw if gimel ro'il chol yirei shamayim sheyeh meitzer v'doya gal churban beis hamikdash. That yirei shamayim should try and the whole time have in mind the churban and that be sad about the lack of the beis hamikdash. Everyone does it one day a year in Tisha B'Av. Yirei Shamayim should try and contemplate this other times of the day as well. We mentioned that Torah, the Mishnah Berurah mentioned, Aval Torah v'Tefillah yeh b'simcha. You should always, the davening and learning should always be b'simcha. Okay, then the top line of the Mishnah Berurah on that page then, on page Hey, the top line on the Mishnah Berurah on this page, we mentioned that when we say Moida Ani lefanach melacha shechazarto bi nishmosi bechemlo. Some people say bechemlo rabba menusach. It's not. It's shechazarto bi nishmosi bechemlo. When he returned, you returned my soul with compassion, and then rabba imanusecha, your faithfulness is great. Bechemlo goes with the word. Shechazarto bi nishmosi bechemlo. Bechemlo goes with the previous phrase.
This is Sivkot and He.
This is in the middle of Sivkot and Ches. This is the top line. No, the top line of the next page. Top line of the next page. No, don't turn the page. On the facing page. Facing page, the top line. Oh, you have to turn it maybe because of that. Top line of the facing page. No, it should be on the left side.
Yeah.
On the left side.
Which Sif is it again?
It's on the Sifkot and Ches. It's by a little Yud Aleph for the note for the Shai Tzion.
Okay.
It's on the top line of the left page. Let's carry on with reading the Shulchan Aruch. Sif Daled. We mentioned that when one's davening to Hashem tachanunim, one should rather, the important thing is the kavanah salev, to have in mind, to think about what one's saying. And therefore it's better to daven less, slower with kavanah, than to daven more and just get through the words. It's important to, we mentioned this is not referring to the obligatory parts of davening, but when one's doing tachanunim, saying Tehillim, one saying the long tachanun, Rachum, one should try and say less and have in mind what one's saying. It's more important. The Torah is called Tefillah is called avodah shebelev, the service of one's heart. The important thing is to talk to Hashem from one's heart. In Sif Hey, we saw all the optional extras, parts of davening that are very good to say. We talked about why we say them. We say extra korbanos because saying the korbanos is as if we brought them. It's in place of bringing the korbanos. Especially with Adam for has done an Aveiro, it's good to do the parashas of Chatos. All these things we said are optional extras. If one can say that.
The Hakdama is Tov Lomar.
Right.
So these are extras if you're able to daven fast enough.
Right.
If you know you'll be able to do Pesukei Zimra and catch up to the Tzibur.
Right. Correct.
Is this the order that you should add them?
In terms of preference,
yes.
He doesn't mention the time. No, he doesn't mention preference. No, he doesn't mention any have. The only one he mentions as preference is Parashas Chatos. If someone knows he did an Aveiro, then Parshas Chatzos should have preference.
It
Otherwise,
should be mechaber.
it didn't mention the preference in that. But as he said, all this is only if he has enough time to do the whole of the bigger Bishul as part of davening, right? So these are additional ones.
If he's not sure if he did Nevera, he should have in mind a t'nai, that if I did, there should be a kapara, there should be a chatzos work, or only if he's very clear that he did something.
You can say, he should say that. In the nusach of the Hirotzin anyway, the nusach of the Hirotzin it says in the Siddur, it says, im nischayavti chatzos, if I had. So anyway has that lotion, im nischayavti.
And a lot of people say all the karbanos whether they've done something or not.
Sorry?
A lot of people say all the karbanos even if they've done something, even if they haven't done anything.
Are you talking about these parshas, or are you talking about
Parshas.
in the parshas? Yes, yeah. Okay.
This is all what's printed in the Siddur? Before,
Yes. This is all printed in the Siddur before, yes. Yeah, there's something else printed before Rosh Hashanah which we haven't talked about yet, which is Parshas HaTomid and Ezuhim HaKoimon, which that's part of the Seder of the Tefillah, which we're going to see when we get much later on when we talk about davening. That's part of the obligatory parts of davening. But here we're talking about all the extra in Parshas. If you look through the Siddur, you'll see all these Parshas there. The Parshas Hamon, all these things I've mentioned are also in the Siddur.